the Trump administration restarting student loan repayment, which we
Mm-hmm.
kind of all inevitably thought this would happen, but now they're also
Mm-hmm.
going a step further, saying that people who cannot pay are going to have their loan sent into collections. They're going to
Mm-hmm.
have tax returns essentially rescinded from them, and they're
Mm-hmm.
also going to have their wages garnished.
Uh-huh.
And this is coming after they said, like, oh, you can't expect the taxpayers of America to subsidize the student debt that has been taken on by all these folks who went to college and took out these loans. I cannot get over the hypocrisy that comes
Mm-hmm.
from this particular topic. I posted on Instagram a couple times this week about this subject, and so I'm a little riled up about it. But they gave out billions and billions of dollars in PPP loans
Gleefully.
in 2020 to all of these
Mm-hmm.
businesses. They forgave 80% of them.
Yeah.
80% of these loans,
Uh-huh.
including loans that were given to members of Congress. Like,
Mm.
they forgave those loans. And yet they turn around and said that the people who took out student loans, who have not been able to repay them,
Mm-hmm.
you're just SOL.
Yeah.
Let's talk about it for a second, because they always, like, when they talk about this in the media, they always make it seem like, oh, these lawyers, these doctors, these really high paid people, they just don't want to pay back their loans. Like, listen, if you had a high paying job, you don't have student loans, really. And the likelihood of you having student loans is actually really rare in comparison to somebody who either has a job now that doesn't really pay them that much, but they still went
Right.
to school and took out a lot of loans to get their degree. Or more probable is the fact that there are millions of people who started college and were not able to finish for one reason or another,
Mm-mm.
and are still saddled with these loans for years of their lives with no degree whatsoever to show for
Yeah.
it.
Yeah.
So, I mean, go ahead.
No. I hear everything that you're saying. I guess let's take it a step further too. Let's talk about the predatory loan system, right? Where you have
Right.
people that have paid back their loans many times over and yet will never get out of this because
Right.
of the way
Interest.
the interest compounds on these loans. People that took out 100K have paid back 164 and still have another 100 somehow to pay. Like the math ain't mathin'. It doesn't make sense.
No.
First of all, I truly believe personally that higher education should be free. I believe an educated population is a population that appreciates and embraces democracy and takes care of each other better, is a more compassionate, more worldly civilization when we are an educated one, right? So that's my personal feeling on this. But if we are going to force people to pay to be educated, then why are we giving them interests on these loans at all? Like, they should at least at the very minimum be interest free, if not paid for by our collective dollars that go into our systems. So when I hear that tired rhetoric of, if you couldn't afford it, you shouldn't have gone. But then on the flip side, well, if you want a better job, you better go to school. It's like, what this is really about is the people in poverty need to stay in poverty because we need a working class so that the upper middle and the rich can benefit off of the backs of those people. And if those people become educated and move up in the world in economics, in an economic way, then who's going to be left to do the grunt work, quote unquote, that nobody wants to do? It's a way to demean and diminish labor, because all labor, all jobs are intrinsically valuable. No matter what your job is, it is valuable, but it's a way of demeaning and diminishing. And also it's creating that hierarchical capitalistic structure. And we know who makes the laws. It's business owners, right? This was written for them. That's why the loans, the PPP loans, were forgiven, because those guys wrote those laws. So if you had a bunch of students and working class people writing these laws, which in my opinion, that's really who should be centered at these meetings, you would see a very different outcome. But here we are once again letting the ruling class tell us what to do, giving us a crumb and telling us to be thankful. I'm sick of it. I'm so sick of it.
Yes, I am also sick of it. And I think the thing that, I don't want to get too far into the history here, but the additional fact that you cannot actually get rid of these loans also is really predatory to me. About the predatory nature of these loans. The fact that you can claim bankruptcy and that these loans will still stay with you.
I know, it's disgusting.
And we have that thanks to a bankruptcy bill that was pushed through Congress back in the early 2000s, to which I will forego all the details of that right now. But there are a couple
Wasn't that
perpetrators.
Biden that supported that?
There were a couple of perpetrators. One of them was a former president who actually pushed push that through. So we do have a crisis in the Democratic Party as well that we need to address, don't we?
Yes, we sure do. And I think there are people in the Democratic Party who are stepping up to the plate and trying to address it, but not everybody's, let's say,
happy about it.
Right. Tell us a little bit about that.